Welcome, and a terrible Sunday night, I suppose it is now. Um, we watched that awful performance by the Lions, and now we have to talk about that awful performance by the Lions.
Yeah, well, I'm Steve, and at this point, it, I, other than the defensive line got better and kept Justin Fields from beating us. I mean, we couldn't. The front seven was good. The back end still just it's atrocious, right? DJ Moore was open all day, all day.
Look, you know, typically, my brother and I, we really like to, come on here, talk a little bit about the Lions, good or bad, right? We're fans, love the game of football, love the Lions, but this is a tough one. I don't even know how to begin this day uh, talking about the Lions. There wasn't a lot of good. Um, I don't think anybody really had that great of a game. I mean, I know you said that the DL was better, and it was as far as the pass rush goes, no doubt about it. At least we
Yep.
got some pressure on Fields. Um,
Yep.
but ultimately, everybody looked terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't, Gibbs
They
dropped
just all look.
a ball that looked like it was going to be a touchdown. Montgomery wasn't, until the fourth quarter, like the running game wasn't even there. The play calling and offense looked terrible. Obviously, Goff looked terrible. Amon-Ra St. Brown dropped a couple passes. Like
Which
the
is
team,
super uncharacteristic.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, and
Everybody looked like they had a monkey on their back and they were just going through the motions.
at the very beginning of the game, you're talking about how slow we looked.
Yeah.
And we just did not look as if. I mean, to me, it's almost compared to. I can almost compare it to the game on Thanksgiving, where they just looked so sluggish and just did not play up to their normal standards. But even on Thanksgiving, I thought that game Lions played better than this one. There was,
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't like really much about this game at all.
No. It wasn't good. Right?
Look,
Jameer Gibbs looked okay. Like you said in the fourth quarter, Montgomery's got a few good runs at the end, but through the first three quarters, he was he was just ineffective.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They both ended up with 66 yards apiece. Montgomery had 19 yards receiving. Gibbs had 16 yards receiving. So, but Jameson Williams didn't even have one ball thrown his way.
Well, they were picked off, like towards the towards the end of the game. I think that last interception was meant for Jameson Williams, but again, it doesn't matter. Like, I know what you're saying, and I agree with you, but just for context,
it was bad. All right, so like we have these playmakers, you got to have them on the field, right? To start the game, Jameer Gibbs was almost non-existent in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Jameson Williams, same thing, almost non-existent in the first quarter.
And here's a problem: like when he is on the field, all they do with him is like go deep. That's it. Oh, yeah. He actually had two balls thrown at him because, I forgot what quarter it was, but I texted you about it.
You said he
was open deep and he underthrew him. Goff can't.
Yeah.
Goff cannot lead Jameson Williams. Williams is too fast. Goff doesn't have the arm or whatever. I don't know what it is, but that's what it looks like. He doesn't have the arm because he underthrows Williams almost every opportunity. Even the touchdown passes. The very first touchdown pass that Well,
Yep.
Williams threw.
It was
He had to
behind
run
him. He had to
slowly
stop
and
it.
readjust. The one that
Yep.
was this year in the right side of the end zone, he had to like stop, turn around, readjust, look over both shoulders before he caught it. When he had the guy completely burned, it's like he can't lead Williams, and
No.
but like every play they do with Williams, in this game against the Bears, it's like just go deep. Like
Yep.
it's almost like backyard football, and Williams is being used as a decoy. He's not running real patterns, and I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't like it. We've been saying for quite a while that he should be doing a lot of a little more slants, ends, get the ball in
Yep.
his hands. Let him make a play after that.
Right. And I don't mean on end arounds like on a reverse. I mean,
right.
That's fine, but I mean, you're getting in the ball. But even if it's a quick receiver screen, try to get it like he's already out in space. But the best throw that the best play I think Jameson Williams has had, and it wasn't even a scoring play, was the slant that he had several weeks ago that they hit him on. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only time he's ever been hit in stride,
where he's able to then try to make a play, and the defender barely got a hold of his shoe and made just a diving last second tackle. Otherwise, again, that was gone.
Yep. So, St. Brown dropped 2 balls, and I know he took a hard hit on one and the other one was low, but these are contested catches that we've seen him make. So, even he was out of sorts, right? And, Laporta dropped 1 or 2. It was bad. Like you said, Montgomery dropped 1 that would have been a touchdown.
Did you feed the dogs?
Yeah, I don't know. Like something, when the whole team's out of sorts like that, like something's going on. Not really sure what it is.
Yeah. I just was wondering, were they feeling just like they're under the weather and they're just trying to fight through it? It wasn't a short week.
Mm-hmm.
Defensively, Jack Campbell looked okay, right? He had, 9 total tackles.
Reeves Maben made a couple big plays. Aiden Hutchinson
Anzalone hurt us.
Yeah.
He just seemed like he had a chip on his shoulder and was trying to just take people out.
Look, a couple years ago, I was pretty excited for Jacobs when he was when he got on the team, and he looked pretty good when he had all those injuries and stuff like that, and he was forced to play. But the last few games, Jacobs has been terrible in coverage. I'm sorry. Like zone, he seems to be pretty decent, but when he's lined up man to man, he gets beat almost every single time. At this point, Jacobs has to go because I got to see, I just want to see someone else. I don't care who it is. Get me someone, because the Jacobs, you like, and I know. Look, we talked about it a lot, before we started doing the show. Was that really a sack? Was it a intentional grounding? All that kind of stuff with Fields. Yeah. And the very next play, DJ Moore deep. That seemed to be a turning point in the game. But that to me, and I hate saying this, I haven't said this at all this entire year, but I'm going to say it now. That's same old Lions BS. When you have something that doesn't go your way, and then you can't overcome it. I mean, even the game against the Bears, the first game of the season, they had 4 turnovers and still managed to win somehow. And now with this one, right, it just seemed like they had one little thing didn't go their way, and they just lay down, and that was it. That was the entire game. That looked so much like SOL to me. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, we had 267 yards of total offense. All right.
Yeah.
We had 8 8 penalties for 59 yards.
Yeah, penalties were
right?
ridiculous.
Yeah. And there were some, well, I can always say there were, it just, things did not go. We got a delay of game penalty for the 2-minute warning. I have never, until now, I don't know that I've ever seen the clock hit 0 and the flag come out immediately.
Never. No, it doesn't happen.
Right?
They even say like the referee people or whatever.
It was
say
like
have
a
to look
half
at the
a
clock,
second.
Look, it's always a delay in calling the delay game penalty. Always.
Yeah, a split second. We're talking half a second. That's all the difference was. And then they're gonna call that, right? I mean,
now, just to be clear, I'm not blaming anything on the refs. Lions were terrible.
Oh no,
this game, right? But
we
we
were. But
yeah.
It's those types of things that the Lions reverted back to their old versions of themselves, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now they're blaming that penalty, or those little things that happened in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the 4th down calls.
No.
Right? It was just not good all around. It wasn't good all around. So, wasn't very happy. Not very happy. Not going to be very happy. And then I'm looking at, and I know this is the post game, not the pre game, but I just don't have a lot to say about the post game. I just don't. Play calling was bad. I think defensively, we looked really bad. Justin Fields was making us look like fools early, right? I mean, he almost had 50 yards in the first quarter of rushing, right?
Yeah.
So, and then we came back and we turned that around, right? And we ended up with, 3 sacks, but we gave up 4 sacks, right?
And then right at the end of the game, too. Like, back-to-back sacks and stuff. Like, come on.
Yeah. Exactly. So we just, I turned the game off. The 2-minute warning thing, I was done. I didn't go back. I went to the NFL Red Zone, see what was going on, checked my fantasy football team. I couldn't bear to watch what was happening.
I get it.
And so I was done. I'm watching the Broncos game against the Chargers right now, or is what I was watching before we started the show.
Yep.
And the Broncos, they're going to kick our ass. And I don't have any, I can't say it any other, that's as nice as I can say it. At this point,
I'm agreeing with you.
The way the defense is playing against the Chargers, and we struggled with the Chargers because they scored a bunch of points on us.
Yeah.
Right? That game came down to we had the ball last and kicked, and we won. That's how that game went. Right? But they were shutting out the offense. And now I know Justin Herbert is out for the rest of the game with an injury, so they got their backup quarterback in there, but he wasn't looking good. I think they sacked him 4 times in the first before he got hurt. So if they're putting that kind of pressure on a guy who can handle the pressure better than Goff, we're screwed. I mean, our offensive line is beat up, right? We're hurting along the line. We're hurting on our defensive secondary. Russell Wilson and then that defense, they're going to light us up. That's just, I know that's a week from now.
Right.
Based on what the results of today and what I saw and what I'm seeing from what the Broncos have been doing, not just this week now.
No.
Right?
They turned their season around. They've been playing good.
We're talking about the last 5-6 games for the Broncos.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
And Russell Wilson's looking like a completely different quarterback than he did last year and the beginning of this year.
Yes. He is looking more comfortable in that offense that they're running. They've got things clicking. Look, it it's going to be a bloodbath on a Saturday night.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Going to be a bloodbath on a Saturday night.
But I gotta say this too. All right, second half for offense was the worst I've ever seen the Lions look since Campbell has taken over. That offense was absolutely atrocious. Listen to what they did. They had the ball 7 times, got 0 points in the second half, and they only amassed a total of 71 yards. All right, so this is what they did on the 7 drives in the second half. All right, punt, fumble, turn it over on downs, interception.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah.
That is some ugly, ugly football.
Yeah.
And don't tell me about their, one of the best offenses in the league. At this point in time, this is just like most sports. It's what have you done for me lately? I don't want to hear about week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, right? At that point, that might as well be 5 years ago. Don't care, right? I want to know what happened this game. I want to see what happened the previous game and maybe the game before that. That's what I want to look at, last 3 games.
Yep.
Because that's the most relevant. Teams change over the course of the year. Some get better, some get worse, right? People get injured. They add people through trades and free agency. So teams change throughout the year. So the right now, the Lions, their last 3 games is absolutely pathetic. And I know you ended up winning against the Saints, but that wasn't exactly a great game.
No.
I mean, the Lions went up 21-0 right at the get-go, but what that tells me really is the Saints beat themselves. I can't say that the Lions won at this point. You know? Now, if the Lions would have went on to continue and the Lions would have continued putting on points, and ended up scoring like 42, 56 points or something ridiculous because they could have. They scored 21 points in like 7 minutes.
Yep.
So then I wouldn't have said that the Saints lost that game. I would have said, the Lions ended up winning absolutely. But you see what happened today. Saints lost the game last week, and then Thanksgiving, Packers beat them.
Yeah. Oh, they got beat.
Yeah.
Right? So then, they came back and they had an ugly win, but it was a win.
Mm-hmm.
And now they had a really bad loss. And I'm telling you, they got the Broncos,
the Vikings,
Dallas, Vikings.
And then Vikings, yeah.
They could, and the way they played today, they could, in theory, lose every single game the rest of the season.
100%. 100%.
Now, I don't expect that, right? I still think they're going to beat the Vikings at least one game. They're going to beat the Vikings.
I agree.
Right? So they're going to get to 10 wins. But they're going to, I think at this point, they're going to be 10-7.
That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to say that I'm not going to be happy about 10-7 because it's the best that the Lions have looked for a season. But when you look at the back half of the season and what they did and what they could have accomplished, right? I mean, they may not even win the division at this point.
No, I mean, it's definitely in jeopardy. Now, personally, look, my thoughts still is I think the Lions will still win the division, and I think that's where their season ends. I think they'll get beat in the very first playoff game they play. That's what I'm thinking right now.
Because at this point, it could be Dallas or Philly to be the first. That's who they're going to play.
Yeah, they're going to get crushed. But right now the Vikings are playing the Raiders, and as Lions fans, obviously, you want the Raiders to win at this point. to try to keep our lead in the division. But it's nothing in the fourth quarter. But at any rate, with the Lions, man, that is absolutely sickening watching the game today. Like that second half, I mean, come on.
We were halfway through the fourth quarter and only had one first down.
Yeah. I don't even think we got a first down in the entire third quarter.
No. We had those 3 punts in the third quarter. Yeah.
It's bad, man. Like, I'm seriously, like, this is, like, I'm not pressing the panic button yet, right? It's not panic time, but
it's not, because they have the talent, they have the ability to beat the Broncos, to beat the Vikings both times. They even have a team that I think can compete and hang with Dallas. Right?
Yes, they do.
They absolutely do. But they've got so much work to do. And I feel like they need to be on these waiver wires, right? I don't know why they didn't. Who's the guy last week that got the penalty? The D tackle.
Oh, yeah, the 34-year-old. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
I know you.
Right? Like, you got Aleem McNeil on IR, and this is the guy you don't bring up, and you don't leave him up on your team when he was effective last week. I know he got a penalty. I know he got fined. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I don't understand what they were thinking. Who did they replace him with? Right? So I know they brought up the DB. Hold on, what's his name? It was
from Chicago.
Yeah, Kendall Vildor. Kendall Vildor, and he had a pretty good game.
He didn't get beat
as his first game. I know, but as his first game with the Lions, it was better than Jacobs.
Yeah, like at this point, I'm okay with just like completely just getting rid of Jacobs. I don't care. Like,
yeah,
but I wouldn't mind. Give me someone else. Give me like Stephen Gilmore or something. I don't know how he looks in practice. We only saw him like in the preseason shortly, but at least he looked the part. He looked like he was able to hang or something like that.
Correct. So I know you probably have seen this, but Ndamukong Suh is still not signed with anybody.
Right.
Do you think the Lions should bring him on? Do you think he'd want to be back with the Lions?
No, I don't think he'd want to. I think, look, Sue is a type of guy, and it's his personality as well as it's just kind of like what he wants right now. So it kind of fits his personality as well as what he's looking for in a team, and that's not the Lions. Sue, he wants to go to a team that he thinks would actually have a chance at winning. I don't think he's going to look at the Lions and say the Lions actually have a chance at winning a Super Bowl. Right. So he's going to look at maybe the Eagles, which more than likely the Eagles aren't going to sign him because they have a good defensive line already and not going to get rid of anybody in defensive line.
And they had him up there last year.
They had him up there last year.
So there'd be the
San
Niners,
Francisco, maybe,
maybe,
or Dallas,
but Dallas could be one. But they need to start hunting practice squad players and see who's available. Because we just have holes to fill, right? If you want to compete the next 4 weeks, you've got to do something about the secondary, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we showed that we could handle what we were doing up on the front four eventually, right? The defensive line kind of caught fire right there in the second quarter. They looked a little different than they did when Fields was just running up and down the field. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what
You know, the
to me, I think if they need to solve the secondary problem, right? I think that's where my focus would be. I think they need to solve their secondary problem, and if they can solve what's going on in the secondary, that will also help what's going uh, on the pass rush. You know, but when we play a team that has a mobile quarterback, why isn't there a guy spying the quarterback?
especially on third down.
Especially on third down. They scored a touchdown, 4-17, whatever it was, right? Or third down and 17. I forget what it doesn't matter. But the long runs that Justin Fields had, they were both on third down, right? We had great rush, but we didn't maintain the lane, and he stepped up, and there was nobody there because everybody had their back turned. Where's the guy spying the quarterback, right? You can't not just have somebody looking at him and maintaining him, right? Russell Wilson can move in the pocket. He can still move around. He's going to kill us, right? If Josh Dobbs is still the quarterback with the Vikings, he still moves around in the quarter. He's going to kill us. Dak Prescott moves around in the pocket. He's going to kill us, right?
Yeah,
so you got to solve that problem. You got to figure out how to keep the quarterback in the pocket or behind the line of scrimmage at least.
And this is why, like, my text to you earlier today was like, I'm almost over the whole Jared Goff experiment thing. Like, I've been a fan of his. All right, I'll admit it. You know, like when Jared Goff plays well, he plays really well. But what do we see today, especially towards the end of the game? You know, we saw him in the fourth quarter. You need your quarterback to make a play. You need him to, and he gets sacked twice. Yeah. Now, I mean, Jared Goff is a little more mobile than, say, Matt Stafford, but that's not saying a lot, you know.
No, and actually, if I put him, I'd say Stafford works better in the pocket as far as moving to his left or right or stepping in, like stepping up, than Goff does. Right?
Well, I think one thing
mobility-wise, it's different, but I just.
Well, I think one thing that we can 100% be sure of, all right, is that Matthew Stafford worked a lot better under pressure than what Goff does.
Yes.
Goff is absolutely putrid under pressure.
Yes. And that's all he got today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You know, when you have your best lineman out, you know, your center there in Ragnow, and you have to move some pieces around. And OSCK, you know, he did all right. I don't want to knock the guy. I mean, he did pretty good.
Yeah.
But other than you're still gonna suffer when you're out your best offensive lineman, regardless of who takes over.
Yeah.
But Jared Goff is terrible under pressure, and then if he's consistently under pressure, that's when you start seeing a lot of throws go, you know, all over the place. He becomes really inaccurate.
Absolutely, yeah. He didn't throw the ball a lot today. 35 times, 33 times, something like that. But he also only had 160 yards or 120. It wasn't a lot, right? I know it was late in the game, and I saw he had only thrown for like 106 yards, and he threw the ball already 22 times. You know, that's not very good, right? And you could see it late in the game. He had Laporta open, and I think he felt a little bit of a rush, and he threw the ball at his feet. So he the numbers show it when Goff is under pressure.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, the Broncos are going to come after him. The Cowboys are definitely going to come after him. And Danielle Hunter for the Vikings, I think he's leading the league in sacks.
I know he was at one point. Yeah, I'm not sure if he still is, but yeah.
So he's in the top 5 in the league in sacks. How's that? Him, okay. Max Crosby, all these guys that I thought, we talked about at the trade deadline, who we knew could help our team.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's not white flag time, like you said. And it's not the let's throw in the towel because we're not going to make it to the playoffs. So let's play. Let Teddy Bridgewater come in and play for a couple of games, or crap. What's the Tennessee guy? Yeah, Hendon Hooker. I don't want him to come in here and take a beating at the end of the season, right?
Yeah, I mean he won't. Like from what I understand, who was talking about him? Oh, the QB's coach was talking about Hendon Hooker, and basically from what everything it sounds like is, you can write Hendon Hooker completely off for this year. He's not going to come in towards the end of the season. It's just not going to happen. Like any sort of garbage time stuff like that at the end of the year, it's not happening. Like it's already been ruled out. So,
and I think that's a good. Excuse me. I think that's a good thing because if you bring a guy in like that who hasn't played all year, and then expecting him to be the guy he was when he was before he got hurt, right? On a team that's not able to protect him. I think about Joe Burrow, who's now out, right?
Right.
Look at all the quarterbacks that we've already hurt, starting quarterbacks. And because if you look around the league at the names of the quarterbacks that are starting games, they're not the guys. Right? They're not the guys.
Right. So let me throw some stats out there to you. All right.
Okay.
When Jared Goff is play action wise, okay, during the play action, Jared Goff has a rating from PFF on plays with play action of a rating of 86.9. He is completing 73.3% of his passes with play action. His yards per attempt goes up to 9.6, and he has no interceptions with play action. Or he has no interceptions while doing a play action pass. However, play action only accounts for 24.7% of all his backups, and again, this doesn't include today's game. This is all the games included prior to today. Right. Now, when he's dropping back straight, all right, no play action. Now, we're not talking about just pressure or whatever, but his yards per attempt goes from 9.6 down to 7. Now, he does have more TDs from 6 to 14, but remember, he's also throwing under play action 75% of the time, so it's 3 times as much. So if it's 3 times as much, he should have 18 touchdowns because that's 3 times as many as what he has in play action. So he's actually under what he should be for no play action. And interceptions jumps all the way up to 8. All right, so 8 interceptions to 14 touchdowns with no play action, 6 touchdowns and no picks with play action. Now, his passing stats also drops down to 77.5. All right, so compared to 85.6. So what I'm saying is, which we all know, it's not a secret, but I just want to point out that the numbers it's not just your eyeballs telling you that the play action is where Goff needs to be. The numbers dictate that as well.
Yeah.
So we have to, like, as excuse me. We have to get back to the basics with Goff. And we seen what happened in today. There was not a lot of play action in today's game.
No.
It was mainly just straight back straight drops, and he looked really bad. So I don't know, man. I mean, I know you said that you didn't have a lot to say. I don't really have a ton to say. I think we're just saying stuff that a lot of people already seen.
Yep.
But I'm not happy with the results, obviously, and just like you, I'm worried about the rest of the games because the Lions appear to be taking steps backwards.
Yes.
Now, whoever's out there listening, you can go ahead and credit that to whatever you want. You can credit to injuries, you can credit to play calling, you can credit to the other teams getting. But I don't care what you credit. The fact remains that's what's happening.
Yeah.
They're getting worse.
Because, it just the progression's not there, right? So if they're not progressing and moving forward, you can't just stand still and expect to continue to win, right?
Right.
And I could say this, if you look at the Chiefs don't look like the same team, right?
Right.
And they will probably make the playoffs, but I think they're going to backdoor into the playoffs. I don't think they're not the team they were 2 years ago.
No, right. No, I agree.
So, and it's about making those adjustments, right?
Yep.
And I know it's just, I don't even know how to. Again, like I said, I just don't have anything good. I don't, and I could sit here and badmouth them the entire time, and I don't want to, because I don't think the team that they're not as bad as they played today. They're not, but this is also the same team that can go out and score 40 points, right? So I don't know. I think the thing that we need to do is solve our secondary issues. I think we need to figure out what we're going to do defensively in the middle on the defensive line. I think we need to pick somebody up for offensive line. And at that point, if you can do those three phases, play your playmakers, and I think they need to all be on the field at the same time. Right? You got to have St. Brown. You got to have Gibbs, Laporta, Williams, Montgomery, right? The other tight end, is it Wright? I forget his name.
Brock Wright. Yeah,
Brock Wright. Yep, Brock Wright. He can play, fullback. He's done it, right? But you get Reynolds out on the field, and you rotate him in. But if you have those 5 guys in, right? They don't. You stress the defense because who are they gonna? They can't double team in any one person because if they do, that's gonna leave one-on-one somewhere, right? Or someone's gonna break free. So,
yeah. I mean, you're right. I agree with you. They have to have other playmakers on the field. That was something I've hated for a while. Look, we did a lot of back and forth on Jamo earlier in the season. I was always more pro Jamo than what you were, but But yeah, I think I don't. Again, we talked about earlier in the show. I don't think he's being used right, even when he's on the field. Um, and uh, I think when the offensive coordinator starts trying to make the correct decisions for Jamo, for Gibbs, for Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? That's when we're going to start seeing the offense even take another level. I don't think the offense have reached its full potential yet. I'm not talking about just the game in the Bears. I'm talking about this overall. The offense have not reached their full potential.
No. I mean, we have two young players, rookies, that are playing very well at a high level as rookies that you don't typically see, right? And you could say three because Jamo's, based on the number of games he's played,
a rookie.
He's essentially a rookie.
Well, Gronk, he was on a show and he said that right now Laporta is the player in the NFL that most closely resembles how he was in the NFL. So again, it's high praise coming from Gronk, but I just want to throw that out there because we're talking about it real quick. But what I'd like to see is different types of formations, and here's what I'd like to see. They play a lot of two tight end sets. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying I want to see a different type of formation. I want to see them stress the defense more with their wide receivers and playmakers. By that, I mean, let's just say you have Amon-Ra St. Brown. You can have Reynolds or Donovan Peoples-Jones, whatever you want out there too, as long as Jamo's out there, right? You have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamo, one other receiver, whoever you want to throw in there, and then Laporta. You can use Laporta a lot of motion coming, because he can either stay in tight to block, he can either move outside to play as a slot receiver. You can play the slot receiver. You can bring him in motion, come across, and then be able to help block with the for Gibbs in the backfield because I want Gibbs in there, right? So if you have like basically four receivers, again, tight end being one of them, 5 offensive linemen, quarterback, and then you got your Gibbs. What I think what that will do ultimately is, one, I think our wide receivers are good run blockers. So you put wide receivers one-on-one blocking against the cornerbacks, I think we win that matchup. So if we want to run outside, there you go. We have 5 offensive linemen, more than likely to go against their 4 down linemen, right? And then because of the situation we have with our offensive line are good run blockers, they probably have one linebacker out there because they have to be in a dime formation. And then you have Laporta, since he's so athletic and can do a bunch of different things. If you bring him in motion, he can go ahead and help, block someone while in motion. What I'm saying, though, is I think that'll stress out the defense way more than what we're currently doing on offense. I think on top of that, you have Jamo, Amon-Ra St. Brown. You can look at trying to come up with different types of routes to help spring one or both of them open by putting pressure on different types of cornerbacks, depending on if the defense is playing a zone or a man, right? Like, there's a lot you can do from that formation. And what I like about Gibbs being in there is Gibbs is quick to accelerate, so you can actually try to get him outside, or because he's not afraid to lower the shoulder, you can run up the middle.
Yep.
And when you have 4 defensive linemen going against our 5 offensive linemen, our guys are going to push them off the ball 100%. I think even, and then again, it plays into not just the line strengths, but golf strengths, because in that formation, you have to bring up a safety. So either you do a play action, maybe hit Jamo deep, maybe, whatever happens. But again, I just think a more of a spread offense, 4 receivers, will fit the type of playmakers the Lions have on the roster.
Yeah.
So.
Nope. Yeah,
it's just my thought.
It is, and that's okay, right? I said I know we need to get our playmakers out on the field more. So in order to do that, they have to build the offense around those playmakers so that it runs through them and not just one person.
Right.
So, yeah, I really, it was a really bad game. And, I hope next week at Saturday night when everybody in the United States, it's the only game on, we don't lay the biggest egg ever.
Let me ask you. All right. Right before we kind of end, because we've been on 45 minutes now. So right before we end, we talked about a lot of ifs, ands, or buts as far as Lions are good enough to do this, but they're also bad enough to do this. Right now, what's your gut telling you? How are they going to finish these last 4 games?
Lose to Denver. I don't know which one they have at home against the Vikings. I don't know if it's the first game or the second game, but they're going to win one against the Vikings and they're going to lose to Dallas.
So you think they'll go 1-3?
So they're going to go 1-3 at the end of the season. They're going to have a 10-win season. They'll be 10-7.
I think they're going to win both against the Vikings. I think. Look, I know. I don't. Lions, again, this is the same old Lions thinking. So forgive me. I know typically Lions have made backup quarterbacks look like elite quarterbacks. And they gave guys like, Matt Flynn from the Green Bay Packers and others huge contracts in the offseason when they got to play against a Lion that just looked like superstars. And they ended up doing nothing. But that's beside the point. So I'm not a believer in Dobbs. All right. I don't think Dobbs is that great of a quarterback. I think that it was awesome what he did, coming in, not having a lot of reps, didn't know the receivers' names, and ended up being able to win. But I don't think he's that great of a quarterback. And that, if you think back some of the wins we've had, those are the type of quarterbacks the Lions have beat this season. So yeah. I just think the Lions are going to go, win 2 against the Vikings and then lose the 2 against Denver and Dallas.
2-2 would be great, but with the thing with the Vikings, Justin Jefferson, he could be out long term. It sounded like they took him to the hospital with a chest issue after he got hit. He got smacked pretty good. So he may be done for the year, but they also had, they haven't had him for the last 7 weeks, so they've done okay without him, right? But their starting running back, Alexander Madison, he was hurt, so you're not sure what that's going to look like. So the Vikings are going to have some issues too that they have to fill when it comes to that, us playing them. But Josh Dobbs wasn't looking good today. But they're also playing the Raiders, and neither one of them have looked really good today.
Well, I mean, Raiders, he got benched today. He threw for 63 yards and only at a clip of 43.5%. Against the Bears, the previous game, he had 4 interceptions. Yeah. And the Broncos, previous to that, he had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But he hasn't really looked good since when he first came in the game, Falcons, Saints, etc. That's when he looked great. But he's looked worse, and the stats show it. Like the game against the Falcons, he had a QB rating of 101.8, and the Saints was 101.1, so it went down a little. But then Broncos was 80.3, Bears 54.3, then Raiders 50.8. So again, I'm just not a believer in Dobbs. I don't think he is, the guy at all.
Yeah. So that Vikings-Raiders game is now in the 4th quarter, and the Vikings are up 3-0.
Oh, wow.
And the Vikings have the ball.
All right. Well, let's see how that goes. But at any rate, I don't know. We'll see next week what happens. I don't really know what to say.
Yeah. There's nothing to say except for, hey, we'll talk to you guys next week. and hope we have a better result.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys listening. And we'll talk to you next time.
All right, take care, guys.
Dude, I tried it.
It worked before we got on here. That's just the well. Look, all I can say is we will talk to you next week.
Yeah, nothing's working. All right. Look, okay, we're just gonna call it. All right, we're having alliance issues. So, all right, everybody have a good one.
See you guys.